Hello, pirates! Welcome to our podcast. I am V.
And I am Talma.
In these episodes, we will sail around the world, bringing ghost stories to you. In today's episode, we will discuss the infamous White Lady and sail to England to discover the true origins of the famous Bloody Mary.
Both ghosts are known around the world, so grab your rum and be careful.
So, starting with the White Lady or the Lady in White. The ghost finds herself in places where tragedies have happened. Women who have been wronged by love and hatred. These stories come from all around the world, and the origin can be interpreted in the way you believe it. It could either be the same name used on many different personas who have been betrayed and haunt the following place, or could be a name on the same lady which revenges in place of the personas who have been wronged. Now, the White Lady has been heard by the police in Brazil. Missing men have been reported to the police, last seen with a lady in white, or other words, Dama Branca. With several different legends, one describes women killed by their fathers after falling in love with men of other races. Another one explains a poor man with dreams of becoming rich originally tries to protect his daughter from men, while in the end he exchanged his daughter for money. From a story I found the following description. Due to his greed of wanting a big shop in the city, he gave his daughter's hand to him. Few people attended their wedding, and those who did cried, as well as the bride. She never loved him, and he knew she never could. Most days she laid in her bed all day, only running down for food when he left. One day she went down eating where the slaves had prepared food for her. She saw them outside when she was eating, drinking out of a bucket. She went outside to them and offered pastries to the slaves. They declined, but she kept on insisting until they accepted. Later, they became very thankful, and even one slave ran to get some sugarcane juice for her. She was very grateful, and later she went to the kitchen, hoping that she didn't have to be so lonely after these interactions with the slaves. All this time, something that she didn't know is that her husband had been watching her with the slaves. However, the next day, the horror began. When she was going down to the kitchen after her husband had left, as she came down to the kitchen, her husband stood there. He sat her into the chair and chained her to it. Then he handed her a plate. On this plate was a horrific vision. It was a hat. It was the hat of the slave which had given her the juice. Her husband said to her, "My slave stole from you, and he wishes to deliver it back." She couldn't speak. She choked on her sobs. It was too much for her. Then he said, "The slave already digested it, so you'll have to make do with him." Then he brought another plate. On this plate was the meat of the slave. Her husband forced her to eat the meat, but she refused no matter what, even when she wilted away. Now back to her father, which had opened a big shop and had become famous. Within 3 months of his daughter's wedding, a shipment was delivered to him. Inside was emaciated corpse staring back at him. This was his daughter. Another legend says that she was having an affair with the slave. Nevertheless, every few months, a man goes missing in Sao Paulo.
Wow, V, that was a creepy story.
Yeah, and also to add to this, there's actually also a bit of a backstory to the man she married, and he was actually known for being very terrible to his slave. He was just known for being very violent, and he even had a wife before her. And he was known that it was very mysterious how she died. So there was a lot of gossip about that.
Oh, wow. So an evil husband. But so she apparently had an affair with the slave and the husband got jealous and killed the slave?
Yeah, that's one story. The others just want to say that it's something less extravagant, just that she actually wanted to be nice with his slave, giving them food, while he interpreted different. But also something that's pretty terrible is that her dad, basically had protected her with a lot of men, but because of his greed, he decided to allow this man to marry his daughter, even though he knew his story.
Oh god.
Yeah, and this is not the only story about a white lady.
No, you have more stories?
Yeah, so the next story I wanted to tell you about is the ghost story that happens in Thailand called...
Thailand?
Yeah, and it's about the ghost Mae Nak.
Wait, is this like a story about the same white lady or a different white lady?
So that's exactly how I began, is that you can basically interpret it in a way you want, because all of these stories have relation with a woman that has been betrayed, or something in relation to love happens to them. And it could be the same lady who is basically avenging women, or it can be that particular lady. It's not really known the origin of this ghost or these ghosts. So you can take them as separate ones or as one.
Interesting. Oh, I'm ready for the next story.
Yeah, so the next story I'm going to discuss happens in Thailand about the ghost Mae Nak. And then after that, I will go into 2 other pretty short stories.
Ooh, exciting.
So this story happens in the 1800s, and it happens during a time of war. There's a beautiful woman who had an undying love for her husband. And during this time, it was pretty common that women died from childbirth. So when he was at war, she died from childbirth with their baby. As he comes back from war, his wife and child are waiting for him. However, with time, he becomes to know of very unnatural behavior from his wife. And at some point, she drops a fruit. And when she reaches for the fruit very unnaturally, he realizes that she is a ghost. Terrified, he tries to flee. She goes after him, but was not able to catch him, as he was able to go onto a holy ground. However, she started to terrorize the neighbors and the people in the town, as they had said to him that when you live with ghosts, you will be killed. With time and terror, they were able to capture the ghost into a jar. This jar later got lost, and a couple of years later, fishermen caught the jar and opened it up. So the ghost was free again.
She was free to haunt other people.
And probably there are more stories that relate to her.
Oh no.
So the next story comes from Venezuela and is about the legend La Sayona. So It happened in a small town. She was the most beautiful girl there, with the desires from many men. Regardless, she had found love and had a baby, and she was happy. One day she bathed in a nearby river, and she noticed a man that was watching her. This man had been watching her many times before, but she told him to leave. He instead told her that her husband was having an affair with none other than her mother. Blind with rage, she burned her husband and child in the house and then attacked her mother. As she lay dying, her mother cursed her daughter to avenge all women who have had unfaithful men. And the stories from these legends involve La Sayona to lure the man away with her beauties and then devouring them, leaving them mutilated for others to find. So what she did is that as soon as she got them away, she showed her rotten corpse and attacked them.
Oh, that is so creepy. Oh, wow.
So the final story I will tell about the White Ladies is actually happening in England, or happened in England. And it is called The Brown Lady of Rainham Hall. And even an image has been captured of this ghost, an image of a white ghost. So the story occurs in the 1700s as Lady Walpole married a man of violent temper. This had led her into the arms of another man, or the story says. The day he discovered his wife had committed adultery, he locked his wife inside, never to ever leave her house again. And actually there's not much known about what happened to her in this house for the rest of her time until she died, also in the house, from a disease, however. But she has made multiple sightings since, in the 1800s and in the 1900s.
Oh gosh. So you have a picture of this ghost?
Yeah, so the picture of the ghost will be attached to a link, or so the picture of the ghost will be attached to our Instagram page, so everybody who are interested can see images in relation to our stories.
What's the Instagram handle?
It is the Paranormal Pirates.
Wow, those were some creepy stories about vengeful ladies.
Indeed. Oh, it just all sounds so creepy and terrible.
Definitely, yeah. It's kind of violent and gross as well. Like the story from Venezuela when she lures people away.
Yeah, indeed.
And then devours them, leaving them mutilated, and then she shows them her rotten corpse.
Yeah, so it's said as soon as she has lured them away, she shows them herself, her true self. So all of these women use their beauties, or this happens to them because of their beauties. So
Wow. And it's kind of interesting as well how a couple of the stories had this similarity where the husband assumed that his wife was having an affair and he locked her away.
Indeed.
And like punished her for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Whew.
All of them. Indeed, some relation to.
Yeah, except for the one in the story from Venezuela where she was the one.
Yeah, she revenged.
She got revenge on her husband, and she actually killed him. She didn't lock him away. She just actually killed him.
Yeah, and her child.
Oh my! Why would she do that to her child? The child didn't do anything.
No, she just saw them sleeping and decided to burn down the house.
I would not want to meet what's her name? La
Sayona, yeah.
La Sayona.
Yeah, maybe she just avenges everyone who is unfaithful.
Yeah. Wow, guys. Keep your legs closed. Okay, so now I'm gonna tell you guys about the infamous Bloody Mary. V, have you heard that people say mirrors can be portals to other parallel worlds that we cannot physically...
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about that, yes.
Yeah, well, apparently, yes, mirrors can be portals to other worlds, and obviously we cannot physically access them. We can't jump through the mirror, but we can access them via scrying. Do you know what scrying is?
No, I've never heard about scrying before.
Okay, well, scrying is a divination practice that witches use to receive messages or visions from the spirit world. The formal definition being, scrying is the art of gazing into a dark mirror, water, or crystal, going beyond the physical eyes and letting the inner psychic eye open, allowing us to receive visions and information. It is a practice that has been around for thousands of years, and it has been traced back to as early as 200 BC when the ancient Egyptians used it. And also the Celts used it, the Native Americans, the Chinese, and even Nostradamus himself used it. I had no idea about that.
No, not any of these. I think it's really crazy you can trace it so back in time.
Yeah, like there's apparently scrying tools and stuff that archaeologists have found, and in the ancient Egyptian pyramids they have drawn on the walls, as they do.
Yeah, there must be somewhere where these ideas come from.
Yeah, it's interesting how so many different cultures have used this practice and have been using it for thousands of years. But in 20th century Britain, this became a popular practice with single women. On Halloween night, they would walk up the stairs backwards, holding a candle and a hand mirror in the dark. While looking into the mirror, they were supposed to be able to see their future husband's face. But some women saw a skull or the Grim Reaper's face, which meant that they would die before marrying. However, today we are going to talk about a very famous catoptromancy practice or mirror scrying based on the legend of Bloody Mary. And I'm pretty sure many people have heard of Bloody Mary, and I am going to tell you guys the version I heard when I was a kid. So, you are in a dark room or a dimly lit room with a mirror. You stand in front of the mirror and say Bloody Mary 13 times. She will then appear behind you, ready to scratch your face off. And some people say that she can be friendly. I bet that's very rare. While others say she appears holding a knife with blood all over her face. If you turn around to look at her, she will take your soul. But actually, there have been a lot of people that have tried this, who have been brave enough to try it. And I have a few stories of, real stories of people trying this out, and wow, please listen to find out what happened. This is a story from an anonymous person that I found, and I'm going to read what they wrote. So they said, "Here's how I always heard the story. You go into a room with a mirror and turn all the lights off. This works well in a bathroom. You begin in a whisper to chant Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary, Bloody Mary. As you continue to chant, your voice should grow louder and louder into a near scream. While you are chanting, you should be spinning around at a medium rate and taking a glimpse in the mirror at each pass. Near the 13th repetition of the words, she should appear and do something, apparently. And a friend of mine said that her roommate tried this and ran out screaming from the bathroom. She was shaking and appeared genuinely terrified and refused to talk about the incident. But those who were around her when she came out noticed that her clenched fingers were covered in blood.
Wow. It's creepy.
Yes. I mean, how would you react if your friend tried that and she came out with her fingers covered in blood and refusing to talk about what happened?
I would take her to her hospital.
The mental one?
No, I'm first checking out if she's okay. And then probably see a
yeah.
psychiatrist. But this is crazy.
Yes. Okay, so I have another story as well from this person called Matty. And apparently he did this with his friend all the way back in 1999. And it ended quite badly. So, in this story, or in this this true story, they did the ritual quite differently. They lit 6 candles and wrote in red on the mirror the numbers 666, which obviously everyone knows to be the number for the devil. And they used red lipstick to write the numbers on the mirror. So, once they had lit the candles, Mike closed the bathroom door, sealing himself inside. Matty stood outside the door, listening to Mike's muffled voice as his friend repeated Bloody Mary 6 times. The two waited for 10 minutes, yet nothing happened. Neither friend talked. Matty became thirsty during the long wait, so he decided to grab something to drink from the kitchen downstairs. On his way down the stairs, he glanced back at the bathroom door and saw that the candlelight was flickering underneath. When he returned, Matty was surprised to see that the candlelight was no longer visible along the bottom space of the door. He tried to enter the bathroom, but the door was locked. He knocked for Mike to open up, but Mike didn't respond. Matty was terrified and pounded louder and louder, trying to get Mike to open up the door. He ended up getting Mike's father, who was downstairs. Mike's father ran to get something to pick the door lock. When the lock finally turned, he couldn't get the door open. Matty and Mike's father pushed hard against the door, but it wouldn't budge. It took them 15 minutes to get the door to open up until they heard a loud thump and the door gave under their weight. Inside the bathroom, they found Mike's slumped body with his head bowed over in the sink. Mike was dead.
No way.
Yes. Oh, I'm getting chills. So, Matty ends his story saying that and warning others to not summon the spirit of Bloody Mary. You know, it seems like a game, but in essence, you really do not know what you're messing with.
Indeed, this is so scary.
Yeah.
Oh, what would you do if this was with your friend?
Exactly. And you know how I thought it was interesting. Like, I found so many stories. This was one of the few where the person actually died, and this happened in Newport, Michigan, in 1999. And he said that it was written in the newspaper in Newport. So I found the newspaper's website, and they have an archive which unfortunately isn't available online, but I did message the newspaper people or the library, wherever it's archived at, and I've asked them to show me the article. So hopefully when they answer me, we'll be able to put that up on our Instagram.
Oh wow, that's so interesting.
Yes.
But this is so scary.
It's terrible. It's awful. Well, I've read a lot of stories and not many people have actually died. I think this was probably the only one where someone died that I've seen. But I've heard many people like freaking out, and other people have seen a woman just appear behind them, usually near the shower curtain for some reason. And sometimes she's covered in blood, sometimes she's holding a knife, ready to kill. Other times she's holding a baby, and if the baby cries, you die. If the baby doesn't cry, you're safe. So, I also have another story about someone who tried this. I don't know the name of this person. Okay, so this is a story that apparently appeared online in 1994. A group of girls had a slumber party and they were talking about Bloody Mary and its origins and how to play the game. So, after hearing the story, they decided to turn out all of the lights and try it. All of them huddled around the mirror and started to repeat, "Mary Worth, Mary Worth, I believe in Mary Worth." About the 7th time they said it, one of the girls that was in front of the mirror started screaming and trying to push herself away from the mirror. She was screaming so loudly that her friend's mum came running into the room. She quickly turned on the lights and found this girl huddled in the corner screaming. She turned her around to see what the problem was and saw these long fingernail scratches running down her right cheek. I will never forget her face as long as I live.
This will haunt you. I mean, they're only 9 years old or something.
Yeah, they were just girls, and it's just I'm just wondering why only one of them got attacked.
I guess probably because she was the closest to the mirror or something.
Yeah, I've also actually heard that if you believe in Bloody Mary, then you will see her. If you don't believe in her, then you won't see her. So maybe, I don't know, she was the one who believed in her the most. I don't know.
Be, yeah.
But I have another story about a girl called Christina who summoned Bloody Mary. So she was at her friend's house, Maria, and Maria's mum went to the supermarket and Maria wanted to go with her. So Christina decided to stay at their house. By herself. So she began to toy with the idea of playing Bloody Mary.
Alone?
Oh,
brave girl.
Right? She knew all the stories about Bloody Mary, but she was like, meh, I'm bored and I want to do something fun. So she went into the bathroom, gazed at her own reflection in the mirror, and she goes on to explain about how she felt as though she were daydreaming, like she was in a daze. And when she came to herself, she closed the door, turned off the lights, and set about lighting the candles she found in the house. She lit the candles in the dark bathroom. She set one on the sink corner and another in front of the mirror. She held the third candle just underneath but in front of her face. So she summoned up some courage and managed to whisper Bloody Mary. But she admits that she was starting to get scared, so it took her some time to say those words. But she claims that something made her stop after the first chant. She ignored this warning, and it took several minutes for her to work up the courage to continue. This time, she took a deep breath, but the words dragged out from her trembling lips as she spoke them. Bloody Mary. As soon as the words passed her lips, she began to feel very hot. Her skin felt as though it was going to melt and burst into flames. Her mind raced with all the stories she'd heard about people who completed the ritual, and she started to panic. She was staring at her reflection in the candlelight, and Christina was unnerved by how pale and lifeless she looked. Suddenly, she glimpsed a white spark behind her where the shower curtain was. She just needed to say the words one last time. She felt queasy and became very hot. Her legs trembled underneath her and the room began to spin. Suddenly, she wasn't going to let her fear prevent her from calling the spirit for the third and final time. Very slowly, she managed to say, "Bloody." Suddenly, a jagged cold chill rushed over her. She had no explanation for where such a breeze had come in. The shower curtain opened behind her, but at first it didn't register in her mind. It was then that she noticed what she described as an ugly figure in the corner closest to me. She stared at the mirror reflection of the woman behind her. Her gaze was transfixed on the woman's face. Christina described it as a very weird and creepy face. Her face was cracked. She was bleeding from her eyes. The spirit's face was pale, but very visible to the young girl. Christina stared at the thin-lipped, dark-haired creature lurking in the corner behind her. With a sickening feeling, her heart sank to the pit of her stomach, and she instantly regretted ever tempting the malevolent spirit. She wanted to flee, but she was paralyzed with fear. Helpless, Christina watched as the ghost moved behind her, drawing closer to her. Bloody Mary outstretched her arms to Christina. Then suddenly there was a burst of white light. Christina's face stung, and it felt as though her heart would explode. Still looking into the mirror at the spirit moving behind her, the entity stopped abruptly and dropped her arms by her side. Bloody Mary moved back into the corner and slowly lifted a finger to her lips as though to say, "Shh." Christina claims the bathroom door swung wide open on its own and the bathroom light flickered on. The candles were instantly extinguished, but she was still unable to move. Paralyzed in that spot, she tried to understand what had happened. Just then, her friend Maria spoke from the doorway, wanting to know what Christina was doing. Startled, Christina followed her friend's look to the bathroom mirror where a handprint marred the glass. She jerked around, but the shower curtain was back in place as though it had never been drawn open. Christina nearly passed out, but Maria caught her and helped her from the bathroom. Slowly, she told Maria about what she'd done. Within a month, Maria and her family moved from the house. The reason for the move isn't given in Christina's account of the events. Bloody Mary is one game that Christina swears she will never play again. She closes her story by saying, "Believe me or not, I don't care. I know what I saw. I know what I experienced."
Oh wow, this is so creepy. I just get goosebumps.
Yeah, I was getting chills and goosebumps while saying this story, and I've said this woman's or like this ghost's name so many times. I'm just like, I think I should say the Lord's Prayer before bed.
Yeah, this was a scary story.
Right. So I thought it would be fun as well to talk about the origins of Bloody Mary, because many people think they know who Bloody Mary was originally, but when I was researching about Bloody Mary, there were so many different accounts of where it originated from and who Bloody Mary originally was. So, this spirit goes by many names. For example, Bloody Mary, Mary Worth, Mary Johnson, Mary Lou, all kinds of names. And all the rituals as well are different, but they all have the similarity of standing in front of a mirror and saying the name in a darkly lit room. So, many sources say this legend originated in Britain, others say in America, while other people say its origins have come from all over the world. Many people think that Queen Mary I inspired this legend. She was a terrifying queen who burned 300 Protestants to make England more Catholic. There was also Mary, Queen of Scots, who is also a possible candidate for being Bloody Mary. There's also a witch from America called Mary Worth. She's also linked to the legend. She was an old witch who gradually got younger and more beautiful. So she was accused of stealing little girls from the village, killing them and using their blood to regain her beauty and youth. The villagers assumed that she was the one who was stealing all the girls, so they took her, burned her at the stake, and while she was burning, she screamed a curse at the villagers, saying that if anyone should utter her name in front of a mirror, she would come and kill them, stealing their souls and making them burn in torment, just like she did. And while I was finding this out, I was actually kind of convinced that maybe it was that witch, Mary Worth, who was actually Bloody Mary. Because there's an interesting story surrounding her property after she died. So, witches, when they die, they're not supposed to be buried in a cemetery because cemeteries are usually Christian. So she was probably buried on her property. So decades after her death, a couple moved in and they had various scary things happen to them. For example, they got locked inside their room, things were flying off the shelves, lots of scary stuff happened. And the house ended up burning down in 1987. People have tried to build on this property several times, but the houses just keep burning down or something just happens to prevent people from building. So, I think that Bloody Mary may actually be that witch, Mary Worth, because there was that whole legend where she was killing little girls and using their blood, and her property is haunted, and she cursed people, but I don't think it's got anything to do with Queen Mary the First or Mary Queen of Scots. It doesn't seem like they would be the ones to appear in mirrors and kill people.
No,
I don't know.
I mean, witches were pretty common there in the past, and a lot of them were murdered on the stakes or in all countries. But you start also to wonder if it's related to the devil, as the guys who were in the bathroom talked about the 666.
Yeah, that's a very good point, because that was the only story that I found so far where someone had actually died as a result of doing that game, and the one thing that was different was that they wrote 666 on the mirror. So maybe they summoned the devil instead of Bloody Mary, or maybe Bloody Mary is the devil, or she's a demon, or not actually a ghost.
No, or something in relation. It's very creepy.
Incredibly creepy and scary, and don't know if I can sleep tonight.
Hopefully you all can sleep tonight.
Where's me rum?
So pirates, we hope you enjoyed today's stories. We will be back with more stories from our next trip. Stay safe, keep your lights on, and watch out for the mirrors.
Until next time.